This is Hub City Insider with Wayne Risher. When Joshua Cooper Ramos speaks, people pay attention. He's an executive with a consulting firm founded by former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and he serves on the boards of FedEx and Starbucks. Employees of FedEx and the University of Memphis, along with members of the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club, turned out to hear Ramo talk about his new book, The Seventh Sense, on Tuesday. Ramo told Hub City Insider that his book is about the power of technology to reshape the world.
Inside of the book is we are all what we're connected to, and that's as true for corporations as it is for individuals. And so the thing that might have made you successful in one area of business, particularly over the last 20, 25 years, may not be the thing that makes you the most successful in the future. So what any large organization has to do is really ask itself, what are we connected to? Are these things that are going to matter in the future? And then rebuild themselves. What we find is that some of these connections are capable of producing incredible returns because the power of the networks to make things more efficient is unlike anything we've ever seen before. But that's really the question every great CEO has to ask himself every single day when he gets up, which, by the way, is the same question Fred Smith has been asking for more than 40 years, which is, what are we connected to? What are the links that are out there? And it's in the construction of that whole system that I think the future of big companies is going to be decided. Yeah, Fred, I think Fred's great business insight decades ago was that connectivity was going to be an inevitable part of our commercial landscape. And if you think about that, he ran that business, and built it cash flow negative for year after year after year because he had this idea, he had this vision in his head that the world was going to be filled with connected commerce. And that's come to fruition, I think probably even more than he expected. But that really was the great entrepreneurial insight of FedEx. Yeah, I mean, what we know about history is when you go through these major power shifts, and I think this is a major shift of power, it's not a pretty process because there are people who are holding on to the old power. They don't want to let go. There are new institutions that have to be created to replace the old institutions, and that takes time. And if you look at human history, there are examples of that happening in a relatively peaceful process, but there are also a lot of examples of big wars and civil wars and demonstrations and fights as people try to stop the movement from one order to the other. The problem is you can't fight history. There's a certain logic of what's going on in the age of connectivity that I think is kind of immutable at this point. And so the challenge, the great puzzle of political leadership of our day is how do we lead people through that so that it's not a situation that produces tragedies. But yeah, fundamentally, I'm optimistic about it, but you also have to be realistic about it. The only way to be optimistic is to say, what are the things we need to do now to try to turn this thing from becoming a disaster into something hopeful?